The following information is considered Ultra Recon Squad property under the Aether Foundation. If you're not of the Aether Foundation and have found this footage, if it has been leaked online, or if you have received this from another individual without sanction under the Foundation, then you are to cease viewing this immediately. The only exception is if Ultra Beasts have entered within your world, in which case, I pray to Arceus for your safety. Use the information found here within to protect your loved ones and yourself. The horror beyond the stars, the indescribable abominations from a realm beyond our own that refuse to follow our mortal rules. The starborn amalgamations at our front step taking guise in a slew of various forms, the Ultra Beasts. They are known to be incredibly dangerous. This instruction tape is to inform you of every little detail, secret, and inspiration about each and every Ultra Beast, the strange phenomena surrounding them, and discuss future potential for Ultra Beasts, all in order to protect you from them in the future. Hello there, I'm Agent Krillic, and I'm here to discuss with you every single Ultra Beast. But first, let's discuss their history overall. Where do they come from? How did they get here? And are they considered Pokemon? Ultra Beasts are extra-dimensional creatures who have gone through ultra space to reach our world, or various other worlds. They are from the dimensional realm known as Ultra Space, which is connected to countless worlds through ultra wormholes. We are talking multi-dimensional stuff, multiple universes, potentially multiple timelines, which we have also seen with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet through our Paradox Pokemon. One of these dimensions that they have access to is the Pokemon world, and the world that each of the individual Ultra Beasts hail from. They normally stay within their home worlds, but sometimes get stranded outside of their homes due to the formation of an ultra wormhole that leaves them unable to return. They're literally just living their own life when suddenly they just get sucked up in a vacuum and get sent to a whole new world. Kind of like an ant hitching a ride on a car. This, in turn, is incredibly dangerous for anyone who these Ultra Beasts end up being dropped off near. Primarily because they become so disoriented that they might become scared, act in self-defense, and become incredibly violent, as they glow with Z power from the Ultra Wormhole, and the power that they have is beyond the power of normal Pokemon. Though the Ultra Beasts are instinctively attracted to people who have passed through Ultra Wormholes, as remnant Z power energy lingers on their form. They in turn see this as a potential opportunity to find their way back home, as it is the same power that they sense coming from the wormholes themselves. This phenomena occurs throughout the Alola region and has happened for as long as history has been written, that we know of at least. They all have a unique sound frequency found within their cries, and are resistant to Pokeballs but are not immune to them. The reasoning behind this is that Pokeballs have difficulty recognizing Ultra Beasts as Pokemon due to their extra-dimensional origins. As a result, Faba of the Aether Foundation created the Beast Balls, which were specifically designed to catch Ultra Beasts. This whole phenomenon is so serious that even Looker of the International Police got involved. Mind you, Nanu from the Alola region is a former International Police member as well, and honestly, I might have to cover them in their own video because pretty freaking cool, to say the least. Back to Ultra Beasts though. As stated by Shigeru Omori, a game designer and director who has worked at Game Freak since 2001, Ultra Beasts are based on the idea of invasive species. Ken Sugimori, original illustrator of the artwork for original 151 Pokemon, amongst so much more through the years, advised that each Ultra Beast design should incorporate contradictory elements, along with concepts that are typically avoided when creating new Pokemon to differentiate them from other Pokemon. And I will say now, they absolutely hit the mark with these Ultra Beasts. They are powerful, and just like invasive species, they are uncontested by the native species. This makes them a major threat that can do as they wish without anyone else being able to stop them. Well, that is, until the Tapus took to the stage and worked throughout history to defend Alola. But more on that later. What's also very interesting is that all of these Ultra Beasts, even the Tapus and all of Alola, are linked through Z power, which, while that will get its own video one day, we will have to discuss it briefly when we talk about a subject later. So with all that out of the way, let's get started with our Ultra Beasts. UB-01, codename Symbiont, otherwise known as Nihilego. The parasitic beast looking for the hostess with the mostest, its home Ultra Deep Sea, is a dark world with many caves that include several colorful rocks in the shape of flora, and the walls that resemble diamonds. You stop needing food and you will not get sick while you are in the deep sea. Rotom Dex is even unresponsive despite Rotom existing within the Dex itself, being a Pokemon that is taking over the machine. And it's only a couple light years away from Alola in case you ever wanted to take a trip. Known for its parasitic ability, it latches onto a host. It typically does not manipulate actions directly, but rather awakens the host's own capabilities and boosts them to an extreme level in order to protect itself. And through their parasitic attachment, there have been occasions where they have acted selfishly. It does this by injecting a sort of neurotoxin into their host's system. A neurotoxin is a poisonous substance that affects the nervous system and nerve cells. The neurotoxin is incredibly stimulating and inspires feelings of extreme excitement and a lack of inhibition within the host. Basically, it is boosting your body to its maximum potential, making you super excited and pumped up both physically and mentally, and that little angel on your shoulder gets kind of booted off to the side. You know, the one that says, hey, maybe we should think before we act. Just blast it through the stratosphere as you then act exactly how you want to act without any regard to your safety, to anyone else's wants, or anyone else's safety. It is about you, yourself, you. This venom turns negative emotions into happiness and pleasure, as Nihilego itself feeds on those who feel intense worry or anxiety. It can also inject these toxins into the ground and cause rocks to grow rapidly. As stated, there have been noted cases in which Nihilego has acted selfishly, one of them being when original founder of the Aether Foundation and researcher Mon was sucked into the Ultra Wormholes. In this case, it was saved by a Nihilego, which then brought it into our world. Though, in doing this, it kept him in a building away from mirrors and had even affected his mind, also that way Mon would continue to think that Nihilego was Lily, which is his daughter, and Mon would never see himself in the mirror and realize just how much time had actually passed, keeping Mon to itself. Selfishly. It wasn't until years later that Mon had been discovered and the family had been united, along with Gladian being there to then capture that Nihilego and keep it as his own. In fact, Nihilego was the first Ultra Beast ever discovered by the original founder, and had coined its name. The following information was uncovered as well. While its exact levels of intelligence are unknown, it is believed to primarily act upon self-preservation, but does have a wide range of emotions. It is seen to act like a young girl, it can store Z-power as many, and all actually, of our beasts can, and it can create illusions, even making it seem as though itself and its allies disappear, can see through the memories of humans, and heal people. We do have here our secondary noted case of selfishness that Nihilego has acted upon, kidnapping Lucamine and even completely taking her over, as it did not want to let go of her. In doing so, Nihilego's appearance shifted greatly, turning dark in color, losing the stars in place of being bespeckled with an array of colorful diamonds. Its eyes open up on ends of tentacles, and this all, in turn, even physically changes Lucamine's appearance as well, turning her hair black and changing the color of her eyes. I want you to note that hair color is determined by a type of melanin called eumelanin, which gives dark colors, or pheomelanin, which gives light colors. Now what's interesting is that melanin production in general increases in response to sunlight, or rather, the sunlight exposure. But while I tried to find any sort of information to that and the changes that can be linked to Lucamine's appearance changes, Ultra Deep Sea is dark and doesn't seem to have any excess amount of light, or rather UV light, within it. Ultimately, it just seems as though this is just a visual representation of the neurotoxin that occurs in ways that we cannot scientifically explain, which in turn remains within the host's body even after Nihilego has left their body. This can leave the former host's body ill for unspecified months of time, and treatment may be necessary. And honestly speaking, President Lucamine went unconscious, so who knows what the extent of medical assistance one would need if they are just simply in a coma. Though it is unknown if this is because of the toxins, the stress of the fusion that had occurred, or the overwhelming amount of Z-power that had been pulsed into her body. And Nihilego can end this fusion whenever it wanted, or even take full control, as it had, forming an orb with its own mass to even prevent the host from escaping said fusion. Though through external means, the merge can be disrupted in other ways against Nihilego's will, though this will still leave the host in critical condition due to lingering toxins and the shock of separation. This affects the host physically and psychologically. Nihilego preys on both humans and Pokemon, which makes it incredibly terrifying and deadly, as it has the potential to take over any Pokemon given the right chance, or any other Ultra Beast for that matter. So, if you think that any of the future Ultra Beasts that we speak about may be incredibly dangerous, just imagine them being boosted to their maximum capacities as Nihilego then feeds on it and remains in maximum control, unless someone or something does something to stop it. One individual would be Subject 0800, Necrozma, who is in constant pain, anguish, and potentially anxiety, giving Nihilego the perfect buffet to feed upon as Necrozma searches for its light. One last note about the Pokemon storyline before we get into the origins of Nihilego. In the Pokemon Adventures manga, in the end of Darkness, the mysterious close of Necrozma, Lucamine fuses with one of her Nihilego, and in the next chapter, the merging concludes, and she attacks Necrozma with her army of Ultra Beasts. That is amazing. Genuinely phenomenal work on President Lucamine's part. She has done what needed to be done in order to protect our world against Necrozma. And now we move on to the extensive origin list, or inspiration list. Of course, it has inspiration from jellyfish. It could also more specifically be based on Aurelia aurita, also known as moon jelly, which has a very similar muscle ring, or Phalarosa punctata, the white-spotted jellyfish, which is an invasive species in the waters surrounding Hawaii. It also looks a lot like it depending on which ones we actually look at, and we can also look at those dots on the bell, or even the ends of the tentacles, which look incredibly similar to Nihilego's tentacles. And what's interesting, if we talk about the symbiotic nature of this, we can look at this creature and the Smithsonian Environmental Research Center, which states most populations of Medusae that contain zooxanthellae, symbiotic algae, which provide much of their nutrition through photosynthesis and give the bell a brownish color. There are also specimens that do not have said brownish color, and they are very similar to the two forms that this beast has, though this jellyfish in particular does not have, or has very little, sting to it. In addition, we have the Mysozoa, a class of microscopic parasites in the phylum Cnidaria, which includes jellyfish. In particular, the Mysobolus cerebralis is known to cause the infections whirling disease in various fish species. The disease causes the fish to develop bone and neurological abnormalities that cause them to swim in a corkscrew whirling motion. They are also obligate endoparasites according to ScienceDirect.com, meaning they live within the host as part of their symbiosis. Those were two different quotes and I forgot to drop the accent in between. Oops. They also do state, though,
Free-living Canadians utilize their cellular weaponry for defense, predation, and adhesion, whereas Mesozoans use it to anchor to their hosts as the first step in infection. Sounds familiar at all? It should. And of course, stepping away from those inspirations, there are plenty of parallels between Nihilego and Lily. Her appearance when her hair is down, Nihilego acting like a young girl, even Lily's outfit, which we know for a fact Lucamine, obsessed with Ultra Beasts, dressed Lily in the guise of to some capacity, whether that was consciously or subconsciously. Next up, though, we do have the naming origins, and I do have to quote directly. Nihilego may be a combination of nihil, Latin for indefinite nothing, and ego, Latin for I, which together roughly translates to I am nothing or I have nothing. Ego may also refer to the part of the psychic apparatus that governs rational decision-making, and together with nihil, reflects how the creature may have no ego and only have an id, the survival and instinctual part of the psyche. The former may reflect its victim's lack of will outside their focus on Nihilego, while the latter may represent Nihilego's role in dominating the desires of its victims. Then, as we step away from its English naming convention and look at its Japanese name, Uteroid, it may be a combination of void, may involve asteroid or meteoroid, utsu for depression, utsuroi for transience, and the suffix of oid meaning of similar form, and id meaning, as we have stated, ego or superego. All of these things are physical or psychological descriptions of the Pokemon, or, in the case of the depression part of that, what it feeds on. Excluding, of course, asteroid or meteoroid, which can just be a tie to space. To me, it also kind of looks like, you know, an asteroid with a trail behind it, or maybe a sort of visual pun or word pun on space jellyfish. Also, while those stars are likely just decoration and additional design, or another visual pun that we have here, the gonads of real-life jellyfish are weirdly close to the same area on Nihilego where it has its stars, which are just under the bell of this jellyfish. I will say, Nihilego was set up to be one of the most terrifying Ultra Beasts, bar none. It plays into our primal desires, giving us power, affecting our mind, and opening the floodgates that are held back by our conscience, which can potentially make us act as the worst form of ourselves as we act on pure impulse and desire. It can do this to anything it attaches to, prevent you from separating, and even become more powerful through this fusion as it uses your body and mind against you and others. And even if you do escape, you could effectively be dead already. It is this powerful parasite whose true strength is only shown through being a parasite of the body and mind. A beautifully terrifying concept. And this is only the beginning of our Ultra Beasts. Before we continue though, if you have enjoyed this so far, consider subscribing or becoming a member to support the channel. The support helps me put more time and quality into the videos as time goes on, as I do the researching, script, thumbnails, recording, and editing. And if you can't become a member, you know what? You already do more than I could ask you for by watching the channel, so thank you. Maybe think about sharing it with others. All you peeps who sleep or draw or whatever else you do, if you're at work, I hope you sleep well, make good art, have a good time at work. I know many of you listen to a lot of this stuff, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this video. And so we get back to the Ultra Beasts. UB-02 Expansion, the swollen Ultra Beast, and my personal favorite of them all, Buzzwole. A large, and I mean large, swole, beefy, thick mosquito. We are talking the All Might of mosquitoes here. Hope you caught the thumbnail reference. Buzzwole flexes in from its home world, the Ultra Jungle, several thousand light years away from Alola. A land that is basically just one large expansive jungle containing both regular trees and several larger spiraling trees in the shape of muscular beings flexing their upper torso and their arms. They are either freestanding or connected with traversable vines. There are rivers that wind between the connected trees, and there is an active volcano at the center that tends to erupt, calling Buzzwole's attention as they swarm in. Makes sense that, the super mosquito would thrive in such a hot and arid environment. Buzzwole's proboscis is said to be harder than a diamond, making nearly every life form in the Pokemon world potential prey. Buzzwole's muscles are so powerful that it can destroy a dump truck with a single punch. And, according to researcher and Professor Wick, its most distinctive feature is its skill to strengthen itself. It absorbs energy from others, then it achieves a chemical reaction between the energy it has absorbed and its own bodily fluids. This results in Buzzwole's body swelling to almost explosive extent, making its attack and defense jump leaps and bounds higher. These muscles bulge and are so thick that they are stronger than steel. It also displays a habit of striking a pose each time it takes any sort of action. This is thought to serve as a method of communication, but it is not well understood. Honestly, flexing is a great way to visualize your own muscles and find where you can focus more workouts on to become more well-rounded. So it is possible that it could be showing off, communicating, threatening, and assessing its muscles depending on the circumstances. And to be fair, bees twerk to communicate with each other, so none of this is all that surprising. Now for its origins. It is, of course, based on a mosquito and its blood-swollen form, but it may more specifically be based on Aedes albopictus, an invasive species of mosquito worldwide, which is also known as the tiger mosquito or forest mosquito, which is also a transmitter of various diseases. It's obvious, but I will say directly that it very much is taking inspiration from bodybuilders, or even superheroes. Even the black portions of its body resemble shading in comic book illustrations used to draw attention to a character's musculature. Its name is also fairly obvious: buzz, the noise, or to buzz with energy, and then swole, meaning muscular. Its Japanese name is Massivun, which can be from massive, and the word for bun, which can also mean mosquito, or if said slightly different, bun, meaning buzz. I've kind of noticed that the Japanese language itself tends to have a lot of words that also can be slightly changed, or even without change, do mean other words, and to my knowledge, that also explains why they love puns so much. This is a fairly easy Ultra Beast to talk about. All this muscle, it's very straightforward. But when you realize that the more it eats, the stronger it gets, you wonder what it eats on its home world. It seems to really like our world, especially as it gets to feed on large prey such as Snorlax. I imagine it could only truly reach its full potential by being as invasive and aggressive as possible, getting as much blood as possible from all of the plentiful sources that it then feeds from. I personally wish I had more reasons to love this Ultra Beast other than it simply just being a great design with a strong personality, and each of the Ultra Beasts have some level of strong personalities or good backgrounds, but I love a good harmless show-off like Buzzwole here. Harmless might not actually be the right word to use, especially after what we see it do to Snorlax or even Pikachu, because oh my gosh, that scene I have used before and it is so brutal with just how hard it hits Pikachu and just in the slow-mo action that it does it. Now, I've said it before and I'll say it 100 times. These Sun and Moon anime deserve so much more love, and one day I really need to actually just watch and react to more of the Pokemon series overall, like I did for the Giratina movie, since I've watched basically none of this series whatsoever. Growing up, I didn't have the time, okay? It'd be good for research, so give me an excuse and, go watch the Giratina movie or my review of it, and then, then it can encourage me to do more review stuff while also doing all of this still. But again, that all depends on your viewership and what you guys really want. I love doing all of this, so how could I complain? Maybe I'll get back to it but how about we get through more Ultra Beasts? UB-02, Beauty, the Lysome Ultra Beast, meaning thin, supple, and graceful. The feminine cockroach, Pheromosa. Fit with eyelashes and heels built into her frame, this is the cleanest and most fashionable cockroach you'll ever see. It hails from the Ultra Desert, another one that is just several light years away, and I'm just going to say here and now, assume they're all several light years away at this point unless stated otherwise. But this is a vast desert landscape filled with turquoise crystals and flowing sand. There are several rocky structures and monoliths scattered around this landscape, as well as what appear to be small clusters of shrubs. There are several large boulders that are only movable by powerful Pokemon such as Machamp, including one giant chunk of a cliff larger than any found in Alola. There is also some rocky terrain that is so difficult to traverse that Mudsdale is required to assist. Pheromosa is believed to be so fast that it can just dodge lightning. It displays a considerable reluctance towards touching anything, as if it interprets the Pokemon world as being unclean somehow. According to Wick, it can reach speeds exceeding 120 miles per hour, 200 kilometers an hour, in an instant. This speed is apparently greater than any other living creature that has been discovered to date, but not really. I mean, since this time, there have been plenty of Pokemon that have exceeded that, so we're gonna have to recheck our facts on this one and update our information. Despite all these feats of power, though, its most distinctive feature is said to be its beauty and powerful pheromones. Most any creature that squares off against Pheromosa becomes confused, as if struck by the beast's beauty, and loses the will to fight. Its pheromones are still being assessed, as they are of substance that is previously unknown to science. It has been shown to steal Z crystals, adding it to a pile and a collection, likely reminding itself of home or being smart enough to realize that they may be a key to returning home. Meowth also developed a crush on it and even worked against the Ultra Guardians to prevent Pheromosa's capture, like the little simp that he is. And it was eventually defeated by a Beware, which is honestly another just absolutely phenomenally sick moment. I know. Like, I just sit here, right? And it was one of the first Ultra Beast fights that I had ever actually seen. And I personally believe that Beware is a phenomenal Pokemon in and of itself. Simple design. Give it the bear hug crush. It's great. And so I loved watching it get that moment of power. In addition, Guzma had one that he had used against the trial captains, and there is a real-life Pheromosa. It was the inspiration for the naming of Nocticola pheromosa, a species of cockroach first discovered in Singapore and described in 2023 by entomologist Fu Maosheng and Christian C. Lucanius, I apologize. According to Fu, he and his collaborator are both Pokemon fans, and the cockroach was named after Pheromosa due to both having similar features, such as long antennae, hood-like wings, and long, slender legs. And I gotta admit, definitely has some resemblance there. I can see why they named it after that. I don't want to look at it too long, though, because I personally have a bit of a fear of cockroaches. Not a phobia, though. Not a phobia. I have complete control, but I just kind of lock in to kill it. Though, before all that, it was simply likely based off of the American cockroach right after molting, as they do tend to be white in color for some time. It also strikes a resemblance to copepods, small crustaceans found in nearly every freshwater and saltwater habitat, and of course fashion models, with its appearance and the way it holds itself in poses and personality, completely contrasting real life or our world's cockroaches. It is likely a combination of pheromone and hermosa, meaning beautiful in Spanish, or formosa, being Italian for shapely or Portuguese for beautiful. Meanwhile, its Japanese name, feroce, may be a combination of pheromone, feroce, Italian for fierce, and cockroach. Fierce, of course, relaying back to fashion models being fierce, striking a pose. I cannot speak if this is the same for all fashion models, but one thing that I had learned was that when it came to them, they always seem so fierce, so intimidating, so unapproachable when they're going across those stages. And in some cases, again, I cannot speak for all, they are told and meant to be unapproachable, made to be felt by the public as a figure above the rest, or at least one that you should keep distance from and admire. And I get it. I understand it. Just a little weird when they wear some of the dresses that they wear. I don't understand fashion. I could just look good on occasion. I will say it is very fun to see Pheromosa and Buzzwole also be counterparts to each other, and I don't remember if it was just terminal montage kind of thing or if it was the anime type thing, but I swore Buzzwole tried to show off its muscles to Pheromosa, and it was having none of it, which is incredibly hilarious. It just gets a big old smile out of me every time. I mean, I'll show it here. If it's just a terminal montage clip, my lord, it's beautiful. UB-03, Lightning, the glowing beast, standing at 12.5 feet tall or 3.8 meters, the living circuitry and good cord management, Circuitry. With a white spark of a head with no visible face, zip-tied arms with cables displaying exposed wiring, and even sharp claws for plugs as they serve to be its feet. It hails in from the Ultra Plant, a dark world that suffers from frequent lightning strikes from storm clouds that cover the sky. Large monoliths are visible protruding from the surface of the planet. Various sizes of circuitry can be seen in the distance, ranging from your average-sized one up to a massive one that looms over the land as it stands in the distance being struck by lightning. Even the monoliths are revealed to be connected by the giant circuitry appendage that glows and wraps around the landing zone, all while the smaller ones run around freely. All while electricity is absorbed from the ground, almost like electric trees. When it appeared in the Pokemon world, it raided a power plant, bringing about the speculation that it nourishes itself on electricity, which can then be proven further. Its body crackles with astonishing power, and according to Wick, its most distinctive feature is an organ that can generate power. This is very different compared to most of our other electric Pokemon which have an electric organ. They store electricity, they absorb it from outside sources, and in some cases they can't even absorb it. If we look at Zorora, it just simply guides electricity. Meanwhile, this Ultra Beast can actually generate electricity from its body. It conducts electricity with great efficiency as well, being able to discharge up to 1,000,000 volts at a time. When it runs out of power, it stabs its appendages into the soil and enters a tree-like state while absorbing electricity from the ground, which is incredibly sick, I know I keep saying that, considering this is actually theoretically possible. There is an ambient energy in many ways. You likely know everything has a sort of radiation level that can be measured and is harmless if it's in incredibly small amounts. You also would know that we have electrical impulses in our brains. And, I mean, with the right setup, some metal, a wire, water, and a potato, you too can make an electrical circuit and draw out electricity. This is all because of one very good reason, and I'm using how stuff works to help me explain this concisely. The science behind potato battery experiments. Batteries store energy for later use, but where does the energy come from? All batteries rely on a chemical reaction between two metals. In a potato battery, the reaction between the zinc electrodes in the galvanized nails, the copper in the penny, and the acids in the potato produces chemical energy. The potato doesn't produce electricity, but it does allow the electron currents to flow from the copper end to the zinc end of the battery. I can only hope that my old college professor doesn't wag her finger at me for not remembering this, considering we spent like an entire month going over this stuff in the different reactions and figuring out how strong of a reaction it would actually be and what direction those currents would be flowing. Though, if you are watching this, I'm sure you just got a good laugh. It's also important to note that Circuitry and a future Ultra Beast that we will speak about, Blacephalon, have a rivalry with each other. competing to see which of the two can shine the brightest. Unmentioned origins may also be from the phrase live wire for when a wire is flowing with electricity, and outside of circuit and tree for circuitry, we also have similar puns in Japanese. Its Japanese name being Denjimoku, which can be broken down for Denki, electricity. My Hero Academia fans, that's literally just a character's name. Denji, electromagnetism, which I think has nothing to do with the Denji you might be thinking of. And Jumoku, which is tree. Personally, I have a fear of circuitry. I have dealt with enough electricity to be deeply afraid of this Ultra Beast. It's not only, fit with very good voltage, but also has very good currents, considering it conducts electricity very well. Meaning, if it wants us gone, it will shock us into nothingness, all while just, waving around its limbs without a single care in the world. As a small tangent, because I mentioned that I've dealt with electricity before, I'm not an electrician, but I did work at a state park for quite some time. And instead of, turning off the power, sometimes all you needed to do was replace, a couple of parts here and there. And as long as you do it carefully, you don't have to get hit with a wood plank, because otherwise there'd be so much electricity flowing through you that you're not going to be able to move. And if your partner touches you, they're also going to get electrocuted. Again, if you did it safe, it was perfectly fine. It's like the joke of, here's the book of how nerds think things are done, and here's the book on how things are actually done. Please stay safe out there. That's all that I'm going to say to you. UB-04 Blaster, the launch Ultra Beast that will return itself to the heavens and the stars above, Celesteela. With a body that is a mixture of a space shuttle and bamboo, we have the heaviest creature in all of Pokemon. Well, it's at least the heaviest moving one, because it is tied with another little cutie that we'll talk about later. Is it unprofessional for me to call it cutie? I don't care. Who cares? Its head seems to have not just a sharpened point, but also hair sticks, and both its arms and its base seem to have rocket boosters. Well, seem is kind of a strong word, because they are rocket boosters and it can fly, blasting in from its homeworld, the Ultra Crater, which is located more than several thousand light years away, being a high rarity 3 wormhole. It is an expansive world with several craters filled with green substance. The land has what looks to be metal pipes growing as roots throughout the rock, possibly even being from planted Celesteela. Because yes, Celesteela grow here like plants, absorbing energy from the ground, but it's not the only place that they can grow, which we'll come back to. Red monoliths also stick out of the ground with several geysers shooting out steam. When there are earthquakes, which are common, the Celesteela launch themselves into the sky, and it turns out that the earthquakes are actually caused by them. A mountainous terrain exists in the background, and a yellow miasma just kind of persists due to the geothermal activity and Celesteela's blasting off. It disappears into space, going who knows where, with unknown reasoning whatsoever. Wick states that its most distinctive feature is the energy that it stores within itself, which is a flammable gas that it can shoot from its 2 huge arms. While it is mostly to propel itself or for battle, it, as stated, will also use this to fly into space. The rocket thrusts can destroy an entire bamboo forest, and if you don't know it, bamboo is pretty freaking sturdy. And they have very long lifespans, one having been buried in Alola and growing for over 200 years, and oh my god, the baby version of it is so cute! Can you look at that? Look, there's a whole video I really want to do that I have yet to do, and I've probably talked about it 3 times now, 4 if I include this time, about aging and evolution in Pokemon, or I guess in this case Ultra Beasts, are separate actually. And it's things like this that make me want to do it sooner. And I will also quote, Celesteela debuted in Rise and Shine Starship, where Sophocles found it buried alive while camping at Bamboo Hill and believed it to be the celestial starship. in Japanese, Starship Kaguya, a figure from a folk tale. So we have inspirations from Princess Kaguya from the Tale of the Bamboo Cutter, where a baby was discovered inside a bamboo stalk and was revealed to hail from the moon. And this lines up with the design for not only a space shuttle or bamboo, but also Celesteela looking like a face with long, layered hair, hair sticks, and an overall body that resembles a layered kimono. Name inspirations also include Celestial, Steel, and Stella for star. Tekka Kaguya, its Japanese name, can be broken down to Tekka, gunfire, concerning the blasts, Tekko, steel, and Kaguya Hime, which is Princess Kaguya. It's pretty cool that we do get, Kaguya, who will reveal that she's from space in her story, and then promptly return to the moon. And then we have Celesteela, who grows up on the planet, then flies off into space, doing the same thing. Which, there is a massive chance that while they are found on this planet, that we called its homeworld, they may actually hail from somewhere else completely if it follows the origin story of Kaguya Hime. They just serve to grow wherever they can, then fly off, likely to wherever their home truly is. This would fit incredibly well into the whole base them off of invasive species idea, so maybe one day we will see its true homeworld. Actually, if we get a Legends of Alola, it would be pretty cool to at least be witness to when it was planted there the first time and get additional information regarding that process, if there's anything additional there. And while this and Ultra Beast didn't have much of an impression on me at first, after researching and looking more into it, it garnered a lot more respect from me, which, not just respect, but curiosity. It's something that typically happens as I do this research, and it's starting to grow on me slowly more and more, and not just with its background, but also with its design because of its background, and I also kind of feel like it'd be a really chill beast just based off of its design. UB-04, Blade, the Drawn Beast, the Living Paper Cutter. Kartana, seemingly an origami human with antenna, katana arms, sheaths, and a head that opens and closes similar to a paper fortune teller, sent in from the Ultra Forest, primarily from Rarity 3 warp holes. It is a world of large and expanding forests, with trees sprouting flowers that resemble Kartana. The leaves are rectangular and resemble paper, and the ground is sandy with rocks in it, similar to that of a Japanese rock garden. It is a world supplied with an atmosphere that seems habitable to humans and Pokemon as well, long term. This is exemplified further as there are 3 odd individuals that live here that specialize in using Kartanas in battle, not contained within Pokeballs, but freely roaming as companions. These people are dubbed the Kartenvoys. Breaking that down, we get Kartana and Envoys. An envoy is a messenger or representative, especially one on a diplomatic mission. So these people may truly reside here, or they may come from another planet, potentially. Wick has noted that Kartana's most distinctive feature is its thin and razor-sharp body, able to cut through steel towers. Every edge has a cruel and cutting edge as any well-honed blade. But the arms themselves are on a whole nother level, being even sharper. Any opponent who tries to attack it will be cut down with a single strike of its blades. Its thin body allows it to also evade attacks by dancing lightly out of the way. This allows it to prove as a very dangerous creature, as it is both incredible in offensive and defensive in its capabilities. Though, since it is seemingly made of paper, it is also highly vulnerable to fire and moisture. Grass steel type, baby. I hope I don't get fired. I'm sitting here and saying this stuff off. I hope they don't remove that from the tapes. Remove that from the tapes. Interestingly enough, this Ultra Beast can open Ultra Wormholes and speak the human language, albeit it speaks it in reverse.
In the anime, it does get one heck of an episode. It is sought after since it was cutting random things all over Melee Island. When a meteor starts falling down upon the island, it flies up and saves the day by slicing the meteor into harmless pieces. Then, it cuts the air over and over again like Virgil from Devil May Cry to open a wormhole and go home, as if the world was its personal whetstone. Then, left once it was sharp enough to literally cut through reality itself. Its inspirations come from not only origami and samurai, but also noshi, a ceremonial origami attached to gifts for congratulatory occasions as a token of good luck, or shikigami, paper figurines cut into the shape of a person or animal and imbued with spiritual power. They are often used by priests to ward off negative energy, and of course it is kind of like a visual pun or living personification of paper cuts. While we do have katana, card, and kurtana, being a British ceremonial sword used at coronations for kings and queens, and kartana, Sanskrit for cutting, to inspire its English name, when we look at its Japanese name, kamitsurugi, the combinations include kami for paper, kami for deity, and tsurugi, sword, which paper god sword, which, you know, it's a weird slurry of words, but it sounds pretty freaking cool. The one time I did enter a Pokemon tournament and lost, I did use a Kartana on my team. This was forever ago, and while I know a ton about Pokemon, I'm not a competitive player. I do not play competitive. I will probably never be good at competitive. It's just not me. I'm very happy just being, you know, this overly knowledgeable individual regarding Pokemon and the real world and their connection, and just being your real-life Pokemon professor, which I just gotta find a way to get the Pokemon company themselves to acknowledge me with that title. You guys should help me with that. We're gonna figure this out. I need your guys' help with that, though. UB-05 Gluttony, the Junkifor beast that will eat anything and everything. And when I say everything, I mean literally everything. A massive beast with 2 sets of eyes, a massive mouth, fit with spikes inside of it that seem to go not to darkness within, but somewhere else entirely, with the light that shines from it. And its entire body has a feeling like hard rubber. Guzzlord. And things here are about to get real dark, because it resides within the Ultra Ruin, but it is not even native to that land, which this land is confirmed to be an alternate universe version of Alola, more specifically, Hau'oli City. It landed here through an ultra wormhole and began devouring everything, leaving a barren wasteland behind. The ruins are situated on top of a toppled skyscraper. Multiple doors and faded signs for a tourist bureau, an apparel shop, a malasada shop, and a salon are all visible. The big gates from the city's entrances, the red fences painted by Lima, the chipped wall where the Pokefinders first used, and a sign which resembles the City Hall's sign, ruined. The only remaining person is garbed in a protective Guzzlord-themed suit, and he states that the people of this world fled to other planets, but he remained in order to keep check on Guzzlord, whom he has dubbed Mr. Glutton. I guess, you know, when it's just you, you gotta have to find some level of joy in the world, and nickname the most terrifying creature you have ever met, you know, Mr. Glutton, something cute. The suit actually protects him from the dangerous air in the area, but you can save this land simply by catching Guzzlord, and he will thank you. In addition, he does show you around these lands. Water filtering machines can be found alongside the electric Hau'oli City beachfront display, being the last remnant of the color blue in this world. Which, that's really sad, actually. Imagine that. No water, no blue skies, nothing. And we'll get to why that's probably partially the case later outside of the pollution that's occurred, but why there's just no blue water. We also see where things have been used as emergency fuel sources 2 generations ago, including posters for a power plant.
and he states that he hated the idea of the power plants being built, but he has no idea why anymore. All things of the long-lost era. In the anime, we get a little bit of a different story that does help provide towards the background of it all. A story brought on when a Tapu Koko of our world and a shiny Tapu Koko fought with each other, opening a wormhole and bringing Ash to these lands. Guzzlord rampaging, and the protagonist only saved by Dia and Zorora. Even here, we see the ruins of the Pokemon School. Though it is said that these lands became excessively polluted because of excessive construction, which may relate back to that power plant. Then afterwards, Guzzlord appeared and began its rampage. And since nature was destroyed by the pollution of man, Tapu Koko, the shiny one of this land, had abandoned the island, and the use of Z-moves then became impossible to use. The world was then only saved as Ash and Dia sent Guzzlord back through the wormhole, back to its homeworld, and Ash returns home. By the way, we don't know what his homeworld is. This, though, is one heck of a horror story. And here we also hear in the game reversed and distorted versions of the music in Hau'oli. And the Pokemon here don't evolve into their Alolan forms. The power of Alola gone, they just turn into the Cantonian versions. Guzzlord itself would have eaten until there is nothing left. Its weak point is the second head above its mouth, and when it does eat, its tongue moves in a wave-like motion that pulls food towards its mouth, and it doesn't stop at objects, but will also even eat the ground, rivers, and the seas themselves. Mountains and buildings have been seen to have been devoured whole. Its digestion is theoretically perfect, leaving no droppings behind, and instead converting everything it eats to pure energy to sustain itself. Its most distinctive feature is its limitless appetite, feeding without pause every moment that it is awake. It is based on abominations such as those found in Lovecraft and the Agrajag creature from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Of course, it is also the perfect personification of the sin of gluttony. With its normal and shiny variation, we also could be getting the representation of black holes and white holes, the two being opposites of each other. One of them being all-consuming, impossible to escape, while the other one is impossible to enter, but only allows things to escape, even though shiny Guzzlord does not act any differently. And of course, we also have inspirations from the European dragon, mixed with a crab of sorts with its pincers, maybe even throw in some Ankylosaurus and Glyptodon. Its English name, being Guzzlord, is a combination of guzzle and lord. Its Japanese name, Akusiking, can be Aki, bad or evil, and king. Alternatively, it may also be Akuji, evil deed or crime, or even Akujiki, the consumption of repulsive things. Now, I know this Pokemon gets dark, and I know Pokemon in general just kinda has plenty of dark moments throughout of it. You know, its series has so many different mediums and so many different opportunities to show the darkness of the world, and it has. But an all-consuming creature that could not be stopped due to mankind's insatiable greed is pretty freaking strong. I mean, it is already clear that Alola serves as a small nod towards human pollution and whether or not we are actually going to do anything about it. I mean, after all, it's how we got the Alolan Grimer line. It looks like an oil slick. It serves to consume waste that was created by man, and only exists because Grimer and Muck were imported into Alola for that purpose, and they transformed into this Pokemon, becoming their regional variants for and because of this purpose. Now, it is in this alternate world where people didn't care, or at least the ones that didn't care were too high up to be stopped, and the lands turned to ruin, and with nothing to stop the alien threats that were constantly coming in this case Guzzlord, it incidentally turned into the ground zero for the end of the world. I'm a real sucker for environmental stories. So this sits as a solid number 2 for me in terms of the Ultra Beasts. UB Adhesive, the Poison Pin Beast. A small Ultra Beast that originates from Ultra Megalopolis in Ultra Space, Poipole. Serving as the first partner for people on their own journeys, it is capable of understanding human speech after spending enough time with humans, though its true origin is from an unnamed world, which we'll get to soon enough. Its large head is filled with a glowing, adhesive poison which it can fire from the needles on its head. While spraying opponents with its venom, it laughs wildly. In the anime, it can also shoot a harmless, multicolored substance as a way for it to paint, allowing it to communicate with others. It has a habit of standing upside down and spinning rapidly as a sign of happiness and excitement. They live in the wild in large numbers within huge nests that resemble wasp or hornet nests, alongside its evolution, Naganadel, who serves as its queen. It does share its poison pin category with the Nidoran lines, and we quickly move on to its inspirations. It is based on bee larvae, and the needle-like appendages are like that of syringe plungers. Its name comes from poison and pole, potentially purple and tadpole, since it is the infantile stage of Naganadel. Alternatively, with its Japanese name being Venom, it is a combination of baby or bebe, French for baby, and venom. And, being the only currently known Ultra Beast to evolve, we get its evolution. UB Stinger. The other poison pin beast, draconic and insectoid in features, it flies in from the unnamed world, Naganadel. A world once filled by the light of Ultra Necrozma, which made it a lush and green planet. Necrozma would often protect the Poipole and Naganadel. One day, a meteorite came down, and in order to protect the world from this impact, Necrozma collided with it. The impact destroyed the meteor and changed Necrozma forever, as it turned into a different form with a black appearance and fell into a crevasse. It then became encased in a spiky and crystallized cocoon, which turned the green and bright world into a desolate and dark place. The Poipole and Naganadel huddled together and attempted to take the remnants of light. A soul Poipole later left the world, attempting to find a better place to live. Soon after these events, a Solgaleo, nicknamed Nebi, and a Lunala came to the world through an Ultra wormhole, causing Necrozma to awaken and begin attacking them in an attempt to absorb their light. Naganadel can speak through telepathy and show visions through this as well, and it and its kind were weak without the light, and it pleaded while telling our protagonists of their history, pleaded to have Necrozma absorb Solgaleo and Lunala's light so that way their world could be saved. Though, even as they attacked Necrozma, the Z moves only made it stronger. It is the origin of the power after all, but I'll stop there, because we can save that for the future. Back to Naganadel, the lower half of its body houses its brain, that actual stinger section. And that section resembles a swollen wasp's abdomen and is filled with poisonous liquid, fit with 3 hollow stingers, the largest one being at the center. They are all connected to its brain, and this beast will react violently if you touch those needles. Its main stinger can eject a luminescent adhesive poison over a distance greater than 6 miles. That is incredibly far. Yeah, you could just get sniped by poison. It doesn't even matter. Just get sniped by poison. Likely, it is also based on the Western dragon or wyverns, and potentially the tarantula hawk or Ichneumonidae, a family of wasps, which the tarantula hawk should sound incredibly familiar to any Fallout New Vegas players, as that is exactly what the Nightmare-Fueled Castador is based on! Correcting myself, I apologize. Naming origins have Naga and Nadel, which is German for needle, or Agoyan, which can be broken down into Ago, jaw, Yan, 4, or, better yet, Ago Italian for needle, Agion for stinger, dragon, and Yang, which is Korean for dragon. So yeah, needle dragon, we get it. It's a needle dragon. And by the way, this thing is like, you know, nearly 12 feet tall. It's, you know, 3.6 meters tall. So that's a massive stinger that it has. A couple of these Ultra Beasts are pretty freaking big. I do love this Ultra Beast quite a lot, as someone, despite ghost types being his arguable favorite, would have a poison type gym and slap this bad boy right onto it. I didn't know any of the story whatsoever. I just saw it and went, I like that one. I also like Poiple. Poiple's cute. Also has a funny name. Poiple. Purple. It's fantastic. Give me my inability to say purple more and more, and I just think it's going to be such a cuter Pokemon. Also, always loved the idea of it being a starter in another world. What are the other 2 starters? These are questions that we don't have answers to yet, and it leaves so much open for future games or Legends games. Screw it, we could get Generation 10 and forget everything else. Just make it this world. Just make it this world. That's all that you would need to do, and it could be its entire own generation where they consider Ultra Beasts to just be Pokemon, because Pokeballs work on them. They have some level of DNA matching in that case, which no idea how to scientifically explain that. I mean, what percentage of our DNA do we share with bananas? It's not that we are part banana. It's just the way that it works. You know what I mean? I'm also kind of amazed that inspirations weren't drawn to the Asian giant hornet, considering that is an invasive species. And I think it like, I looked at a couple articles and I could have sworn we had some in the US at one point. I thought like there was 1 or 2 found in Washington, but I'm not sure. All I know is when you look at that creature, and the information behind it, it will actively kill honeybees. It will hunt them down, go to their hive, behead them, eat them, and then, after it's full, continue to behead them and take the throne of the queen. And I wanted to talk about it a little bit further, as let's talk about the pain that they induce. From National Geographic, this is sourced from. The sensation is like being stabbed by a red-hot needle, says Shunichi Makino, who studies wasps and bees at Japan's Forestry and Forest Products Research Institute. Not only that, but the anguish lingers. Usually, the stung part severely swells and continues aching for a few days, Makino explains via email. And although you could also have these symptoms when stung by the other hornet species, the intensity is said to be much more severe in Vespa mandarina. Or mandarinia. We really need to get this Latin down. Sorichi Yamane got stung on the job. He was a wasp researcher, now retired, and he confirms Makino's description. The pain lasted 2 days, and my sleep was often disturbed by severe pain. And the mixing of Nagano's poison could also be kind of like a more, cartoony version of the chemicals mixing in within, this creature. What makes the sting of the Asian giant hornet so painful? Schmidt says that acetylcholine, Schmidt says that acetylcholine and histamine within the venom cause pain and swelling, assisted by chemicals called kinins that dilate blood vessels. A substance called mastoperin, not found in bee venom, and phospholipase synergistically act to degrade immune cells and spur widespread inflammation. In combination with kinins, these chemicals can break down blood and muscle cells, Schmidt says. The poison is literally breaking down your cells bit by bit. It is killing you on the molecular level. But don't worry, apparently it doesn't seem like it should actually kill you. It's just causing incredible pain throughout your entire body until your body can actually fight back with enough force to get rid of it. Because it's getting rid of white blood cells to help figure certain things out. UB Assembly, the Rampart Beast, the teamwork brick creature itself. Composed of many dark gray stone life forms stacked together to form a 4-sided tower with a spindly leg on each corner. It has a circular glowing blue eye at its center, and any other visible eyes will turn red whenever angered or fighting. It kind of just gives me PTSD, reminding me of the Guardians in Breath of the Wild. According to FICO, captain of the Ultra Recon Squad sent out to study these alternate dimensions, Sakataka comprises almost 150 individual life forms on average on its body, to form legs and open up to let attacks through or trap foes inside of it. Its legs are strong enough to break a tree in half. And it hates having anything on top of itself and will violently shake to try and actually shake the objects off of it. However, if someone can resist the shaking and successfully ride it, then it will calm down and they'll gain Stakataka's respect. Its homeworld is currently unknown. The inside of it is terrifying with all the eyes staring at you, and I would hate to be crushed inside of it. That is a horror show in and of itself. It resembles a castle tower, possibly even the yokai that lives within walls and is identified by its myriad of eyes, the Moku Mokuren. And according to yokai.com, I quote, appearance. If not properly taken care of, shuji, the paper sliding doors and windows found in Japanese houses, can be easily damaged and riddled with holes. When shoji have gone too long without repair, ghostly eyes begin to pop out of the holes, watching all that goes on inside of the house. Behavior. Moko Mokuren are harmless, but incredibly creepy. Their true danger lies in who their companions might be. Moku Mokuren often work in concert with other Tsukumogami, and are usually a sign of a greater infestation of yokai. Tsukumogami basically being creatures that were left behind, brought back to life because of being abandoned. You know, umbrellas are a big thing of that for some reason. It might also, though, be based on the Nurikabe, another yokai that blocks the way of travelers in the guise of a wall. And I once again quote yokai.com. I love going to them for my yokai stuff. Appearance. Little is known about the true appearance of the Nurikabe because these yokai are usually said to be invisible. During the Edo period, however, artists began to illustrate this creature, giving it an appearance somewhere between a grotesque, fantastic beast and a flat white wall. Modern representations of the Nurikabe depict it as a plain, gray, bipedal wall with vague face-like creatures, kind of like a thwomp. I didn't think about that till now. It's kind of like a thwomp from Mario. Behavior. Nurikabe appear mysteriously on roads late at night. As a traveler is walking right before his or her eyes, an enormous invisible wall materializes and blocks the way. There is no way to slip around this yokai. It extends itself as far as to the left and right as one might try to go. There is no way over it either, nor can it be knocked down. However, it is said that if one taps it near the ground with a stick, it will vanish, allowing the traveler to continue on its way. Now, the origin for it, the true nature of the Nurikabe, is surrounded in mystery. Based on its name, it seems to be related to other household spirits known as the Tsukimogami. It also has been suggested that the Nurikabe is simply another manifestation of a shape-shifting Itachi or Tanuki. Mischievous Tanuki are said to enlarge their magical scrotums into an invisible wall in order to play pranks on unsuspecting humans. I couldn't hold it together. Magical scrotum. Tanukis. You know. Magical raccoons. The places that my research takes me sometimes, I don't want to believe, and I feel like most people don't believe. I've had so many conversations, or a few conversations lately, where I meet up with, you know, my professors, or the first time I saw some of these professors again, you know, and some people from, you know, around the area that I've talked to, you know, that might be near the professors that I just want to go say hi to, have asked, like, oh, what do you do with your life now? Like, what are you actually up to? And I go, I do a lot of research. And I've researched a lot of different things, from yokai to history to ancient history regarding animals and evolution to this, to Tanuki. Enlarging. Yeah, I don't know how many times I can say that before YouTube decides it's gonna demonetize me. I don't think it would. I'm using a medical term. Pulling myself together though, Stakataka. Its name could be broken down to stack and attack. In its Japanese name, we also have Tunde Tunde, which may just be derived from the repetition of Sunde, which just means stack. So it's just stack, 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 which is, you know what? I like it more now that I said it that way. Also, really feel like the original idea of invasive species being the inspiration for this kind of lost its way clearly by now, but it would be incredibly cool to see their homeland. Maybe there are people that are building with its, like, just the bricks, and maybe the brick itself is its first form, and maybe it has, like, a full 3-stage evolution, and it's only when they're all together, kind of like a Diglett or a Magnemite, that they unleash their full power and get this whole thing. Maybe even Beldum, for that matter. I could also just totally see, again, random bricks missing in their homeworld because these are otherwise harmless creatures, and they were picked up and used to build a wall. And then they just kind of off on their way. UB Burst, the most clowny of them all, the fireworks beast Blacephalon. Garbed like a clown with eyes on the sides of its head, the head itself is a white ball with a multitude of pink and blue dots, which are actually a collection of tiny sparks. The colors and shapes change with Blacephalon's mood. The head is not attached to the body and can be removed for use as a weapon. It first tricks its targets through the silly way it walks before blowing its head up without warning, shocking them in the process. Then it steals away their vitality to use as energy like the little evil clown that it is. It can freely move its head around easily and regenerate it after blowing it up. Its homeworld is unknown, but I kind of imagine it to be like this incredibly pretty amusement park. Or maybe it is an abandoned amusement park considering its ghost typing, and they're just trying to just recapture the magic since there aren't people there and people don't see it anymore, and this causes people in Pokemon to get drawn into the amusement park at night, so that way, once they get close enough, they're doing all these explosions and fireworks, they don't know who's doing it, and it just steals their vitality as they're just kind of in the general vicinity, making it so much easier for them to live and eat. Stepping away from that though, its additional inspirations may include the Clown Face Nebula, the Nukikubi, or the Dullahan, but it's when we get into its name that, in my opinion, it got a lot funnier. In English, we have, for Blacephalon, Blast and Encephalon, which means the brain, so brain blast. Potentially even Acephalus, which means having no head. Then, that we get into its Japanese name, and we have Zugadun, which can be taken literally to mean head goes boom. This one stands out perfectly as my third place because I love the aesthetic of it and the stupidity of it just making its head explode and just how it acts overall. I love, like, creatures that decide they just surprise, their prey by doing something that they would otherwise see as illogical. That's the whole point of these creatures, after all. They serve as illogical representations against what we should know. They're not very Lovecraftian, not all of them at least, but they go against modern human logic, and that's all that they need to truly do. And I really want to see the homeworld that it has. There's a lot of potential there with just how this Pokemon acts and how it is garbed overall. But with that, we have all of the Ultra... Subject 0789, the Nebula Pokemon Cosmog. A creature with a gaseous body similar to that of a nebula. It is one of the lightest Pokemon in existence. And it is rather frail and easily blown away, but it is carefree and doesn't seem to mind. It collects dust from the atmosphere, which allows it to grow slowly. It has the ability to warp itself and those close to it. Mon has stated that it can even open ultra wormholes under extreme stress. This is known to be very dangerous for Cosmog, and the use of its powers can leave it immobile for extended periods of time, or even fatal when used improperly. According to Lucamine, the gases from its body can also be extracted to create ultra wormholes artificially. Cosmog is theorized to be a type of Ultra Beast, and in ancient times it was known as the Child of the Stars by the people of Alola. When angered, its wisps will puff up in a rather comedic, kind of cute way. It's not very threatening considering how weak it is, outside of it creating ultra wormholes that bring in creatures from beyond the stars. Its nature is overly trusting, making it easy for capture, and immediately it just kind of takes a liking to anybody who shows it any form of kindness, even when that person doesn't have the best intentions for it. It is known to be curious, but not very cautious as well, willingly putting itself into danger very often, only to teleport away when it finally realizes the situation that it is in. It can also be created by subjects 791 and 792, though how this is done is unknown. The guardian deities of Alola, the Tapus, protect Cosmog until it fully evolves and returns to Ultra Space to repeat the cycle. Its homeworld is unknown, though we do find another creature other than Poipole that evolves, as Cosmog has absorbed enough particles from the atmosphere and it then evolves into subject 790, the protostar Pokemon Cosmoem. It takes shape of a small orb at the center of a shell resembling that of space that is further encased by a golden shell-like structure, all coming together to resemble an eye. Depending on which subject it further evolves into next, it may glow orange or purple to represent them. Encased in its sturdy cocoon-like shell, it is unable to move or eat. It simply continues to absorb starlight and dust in the air, which I would dare say is its form of eating, as it's just absorbing it all for energy and so on. It is warm to the touch and is said to be harder than any known material. It was known in ancient times as the cocoon of the stars. And despite being one of the smallest Pokemon in existence, it is tied for weight with Celesteela at 2,204.4 pounds or 999.9 kilograms. This makes it incredibly dense, almost like a neutron star or a black hole, which pulls from its inspirations. Additional inspirations have been noted to be that of a more stylized sun and moon due to the rays and crescents within its design. It is compared to that of star formation, as it has gone from Cosmog to Cosmoem, particles condensing more and more until the density and weight continues to increase, forming a core until eventually it either fails and dies or becomes a celestial body, whether that be a sun, a planet, or even a moon. In name, it may be a combination of cosmos, ovum, Latin for egg, and embryo. Japanese name cosmovum plays into this further, and this could be seen as a nod to the world egg, the egg that came first, and once cracked open, the universe was unleashed. Now, depending on what circumstances you find yourself in, the universe you reside in, but more likely the gender of the Cosmoem, it then evolves into one of the following two subjects. Subject 0791, the sun Pokemon Solgaleo, a large white Pokemon that resembles a lion. It has a secondary phase known as the Radiant Sun phase, where its third eye appears. Its body glows a pale yellow and red and black on parts of its body. It enters this phase when using one of its signature moves or traveling through ultra space. It has long been honored as an emissary of the sun, and in ancient times was dubbed the beast that devours the sun. It comes from another world unknown. Its body is capable of holding a vast amount of energy and glows when active. The intense light it radiates can make nighttime look like midday. It can freely create ultra wormholes and travel through ultra space, and alongside the assistance of subject 0792, it can create Cosmog. We have noted that Solgaleo is considered to be the male form. It has the power to create Z-crystals, and it can influence Rockruff's evolution with solar energy. It is known to be a common ride Pokemon in Ultra Megalopolis to assist with traveling through ultra space. It is a being composed of light and is hunted by Necrozma as it wishes to devour said light. The lion has also been depicted to represent the sun throughout media and history as per its inspirations, and Solgaleo is no exception, being exactly that, as the sun is the ruler of the star sign Leo. It also seems to draw inspiration from the alchemical lion that is said to devour the sun. It may also serve as the Eye of Ra, a goddess usually described as a lion that is the sun's protector in Egyptian mythology as it travels through the underworld. Its shiny coloration may represent phases in stellar evolution, white for main sequence stars, shiny for the red giant that the sun will eventually become as the hydrogen inside its core is exhausted and it eventually just dies. Name inspirations could also be drawn from Sol, Latin for sun, Leo, Latin for lion, or even Galileo, an Italian astronomer who presented evidence that the Earth rotated around the sun, because for some reason, and they thought that, the sun rotated around the Earth, and I kind of get it, we're on Earth, it looks like it rotates around us, but no. So in the past, everything was Earth-centric, everything rotated around the Earth, but then he's like, yo, everything's sun-centric, and they're like, no, you're an idiot, what are you on about? And he goes, nah, son, check this out, we're not the only planet, look at all the other rotating things, they're not rotating around us, otherwise it would be even, and blah, 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 all this math stuff, and I don't remember every tiny detail. I'm going off of memory, I'm not gonna lie. And ultimately, the man goes, check it, here's the proof. We rotate around the sun. It's all about the sun, not about us. Boy. Moving on to subject 0791, the moon Pokemon Lunala. A large Pokemon resembling a skeletal, legless bat. A starscape shifts and turns in an area on its upper head. A hood and its wings resemble that of the moon, especially when it enters its full moon phase, opening its third eye, allowing the starscape to turn a streak of white. Its wings change to a bright light blue, and it arranges its wings to look like a full moon. Like Solgaleo, it does this when using its signature moves or traveling through ultra space. Lunala has long been honored as the emissary of the moon, dubbed the beast that calls the moon. It constantly absorbs light to convert it into energy and can obscure daylight with darkness, also releasing its own light in return. When it spreads its wings to absorb light, it glitters and resembles a beautiful night sky. Its dark energy also shields it from harm. It follows the same info and ability to open wormholes as Solgaleo. Homeworld is unknown, it can influence Rockruff's evolution, and can create Z crystals. It is noted as the female evolution of Cosmog. It is also composed of light and hunted down constantly by Necrozma as well. Now, there are plenty of inspirations that influenced as a potential what made Lunala, including bats such as the Hawaiian Hari bat and the extinct Cineprorion, the ghost bat, in other words, giving us another pun name. Then there are the slew of bat deities. This includes Itzpapalato, a skeletal Aztec goddess and star demon, often depicted with bladed bat wings, as we see as the blades of this wonderful Lunala. Camazotz, a Mayan bat god associated with the night, death, and sacrifice. You kind of get the night part in there, not so much death and sacrifice. Lutogi, a Samoan protector bat goddess, which feels most fitting with the shield it creates. And Peapea Makawalu, an 8-eyed bat that Hawaiian demigod Maui snatched eyes from. Then we also have Hine Nui Tepo, which is another possibility from Maori legend, as she is the great woman of the night, goddess of the night, and receiver of the spirits of humans when they die. She is believed to be where the color red in the sky comes from, just as we see in Lunala's, oh my goodness, shiny form. She even hid herself in eternal darkness in order to hide herself from her father, and that is how she became goddess of the night. Again, the whole shielding idea. That same color can be seen during a total lunar eclipse, the red, and Lunala's body stance can be compared to that of a sundog, an atmospheric optical phenomenon that consists of a bright spot to one or both sides of the sun. Two sundogs often flank the sun with a 22-degree halo. Even its cry sounds like it's saying Mahine Pea, which may be the words Mahina, Hawaiian for moon, and Opeapea, which is Hawaiian for bat. Mahina Piha is also Hawaiian for full moon. Its name inspiration is simply Luna, Latin for moon, and Ala, Latin for wing, so winged moon. And possibly Lunula, meaning something crescent-shaped, so crescent-shaped moon wings. I love it. I love it. I love this Pokemon. I don't know. I chose, first off, I chose Pokemon Moon, not Pokemon Sun. I love Lunala. It was my 100th shorts for rating people's favorite Pokemon. It holds even more special of a place. I want a Lunala plush or something so badly. I love the Cosmoem line altogether. They are S tier. I don't know what it is about Alola, and I feel terrible that the game suffered from, like, just replayability issues, which dragged it down a lot in a lot of people's eyes, unfortunately. But then also, like, there's just so much more when you look at the anime and the lore. It is by far, like, some of the coolest Pokemon, in my opinion, in terms of their history and what makes them up to be who they are. The depth of knowledge and information that really got dug into for this culture, for the culture and ideas, and it's beautiful. I didn't gush as much during this video, but gosh, S tier, Cosmog line, beginning to end, S tier. We have finally reached subject 0800, arguably one with the most potential to be incredibly dangerous, the Prism Pokemon Necrozma. This is a multi-dimensional, multi-timeline Pokemon. As such, the following information has been gathered from the known timelines. Its body is constructed of a black crystalline material, and its face is actually a brain prism, as we have dubbed it, which possesses a collection of multicolored shapes that resemble eyes. Its body is disproportional, uneven, and it originates from Ultra Space itself, capable of opening and traveling through Ultra wormholes. This is why many people believe it to be one of the Ultra Beasts, but many accounts claim that it does not meet the criteria. It once had the ability to give light in its original form, but lost this ability after being heavily injured by the Ultra Recon Squad's ancestors in an attempt to steal its light. Again, multiple timelines. It is theorized that the sparkling stones and the Z crystals used to perform Z moves are fragments of Necrozma's body that rained upon Alola after it had been injured. According to the Ultra Recon Squad, the light that radiates from Necrozma is the aura that surrounds the trainer and Pokemon while performing Z moves, and the same aura surrounding Totem Pokemon. This same energy, as noted, is consumed by Ultra Beasts and radiated by Solgaleo and Lunala. In truth, Ultra Space itself is the space itself, filled with crystalline meteoroids and populated by members of the Cosmog line. In ancient times, Necrozma's light shone through the Ultra wormholes, connecting to various worlds such as the Ultra Beast's homeworlds, Ultra Megalopolis, and the Pokemon world, primarily the Alola region. However, following the noted incident with Necrozma and the ancient residents, Necrozma was damaged and could not produce light anymore. The agony caused by its injury sent it into a berserk state where it constantly hungered, or rather hungers, for light. As a result, it was imprisoned in Megalo Tower in the center of Megalopolis for some time. At another point in the past across the timelines, Solgaleo and Lunala arrived in Alola from Ultra Space and won a fight against the Guardian Deities. Those are the Tapus. They then bestowed Tapunium Z to the Guardian Deities and produced several Cosmog before departing again. Across all timelines, once again, Necrozma had found its way into the Alolan region and stole its light, covering the region in darkness. It clashed against the Guardian Deities, who fought to defend Alola. Though, in this fight, Necrozma had absorbed Solgaleo or Lunala, depending on what universe, to form the Duskmane or Dawnwing forms, where it has complete control over their bodies, acting as an armor as it absorbs light from them and fights with combined might as it controls their bodies. Though Necrozma was fought back, removed from the fusion, and Alola's light was restored. In another timeline, which we have discussed already, Z-moves were used to refuel Necrozma in order to save Poipole and Naganadale's home world when they had asked for it. That's why it was attacked with Z-moves. It then uses its power to restore the world, bringing light back into it and revitalizing the floral life, and serves as a protecting deity once more. Necrozma displays extremely violent behavior due to the constant maddening pain it suffers in its incomplete state. It is desperate for the light it requires to not only sustain itself, but to also regain its original form. It will steal the light from other beings and places in this desperation. This has given it the fear-driven moniker of Pillar of Light in ancient times. The black coloration is a result of impurities building up within it as a result of its deep slumber. It can shoot powerful lasers using the power of a prism. It can attack with a large pillar of light, and when Necrozma absorbs light from a world, that world becomes shrouded in darkness until the stolen light is returned. It was at one point given the codename UB Black, and it can absorb the Z power from an entire world, which causes adults to become more tired and lose motivation. At least in the Alolan region. They're around it all the time, so it only makes sense that having grown up with it and probably having leaked Z power radiation within their bodies, they have grown to potentially partially use that as part of who they are. It makes sense considering they use Z moves with their Pokemon. Only by combining with Lunala or Solgaleo, or by holding Ultra Necrozium Z, or by sucking out the light of a world, or the tons of all the Z moves, can it open itself up to absorbing more light, bringing its capacity to be completely open. It's like, you know, expanding a balloon, but it hasn't actually filled the balloon, it just somehow expanded it. And now, it can absorb an overwhelming amount of light energy and Z power, opening itself up for transformation. As it reaches its original state, Ultra Necrozma. It is a colossal dragon, standing at 24 feet 7 inches, or 7.5 meters, mostly composed of pure light energy that it had stored from a great energy source. There's a sort of skeleton that is made up from the various pieces of its impure crystalline body, which now take on a golden glow from the light. It is known as the tallest psychic type Pokemon. It resembles, as well, an 8-pointed star. Its face is armored and has multicolored heterochromatic eyes, one eye being a different color from the other, and the patterns around its eyes resemble an Ultra Necrozium Z. Now, at full power, it radiates energy that has all sorts of effects on living beings and even nature itself. Its body temperature exceeds 10,000 Fahrenheit, or 5,540 Celsius, which means that it will melt anything that it touches from the extreme heat. It can fire laser beams from every point of its body, which can now reach over 18 miles away, burning everything in their path. While swinging its 4 wings around, Ultra Necrozma uses its superheated claws to tear its opponents to shreds. I imagine if somehow you survive the actual clawing, you're not surviving anything else, because it is clawing you and burning you all at the same time. Clawing you and melting you at the same time due to its body heat. In this form, it is known as the Blinding One due to its brilliant appearance. Though, if it uses up all of its light, it reverts to its lightless form and enters onto a deep slumber unless it absorbs more light. Inspirations for Necrozma include the way light shines through prisms to create the rainbow effect through light diffraction. This may also tie into the codename for Pokemon Sun and Moon during production, Rainbow, in addition to Hawaii being referred to as the Rainbow State. It has literal and symbolic similarities to black holes, black dwarfs, and neutron stars, aliens of many forms, its incredible intelligence, and it vaguely resembles a dragon's skeleton, just kind of smashed together. Alternate names for Duskmane and Dawnwings are Nishoku, Solar Eclipse, and Geshoku, Lunar Eclipse, which can also be literally translated as eating the sun or eating the moon, which is exactly what it does to Solgaleo and Lunala. Ultra Necrozma itself may be based on giant stars or supernova, and of course a 4-winged wyvern. With its transformation, it may be based on the legends of the Mo'o. Now, there are a lot of stories that I generally skimmed through, and most are told through traditional oral storytelling. One being Tales of the Night Rainbow, which lines up Necrozma. Others claim the Mo'o to be dragons, not just water lizards or protector deities, or they even appear as beautiful maidens. They were claimed to be 12 to 30 foot long reptiles, black as night, glistening in the water. Personally, I will not actually explain it any further, as there is far more than I can appropriately cover here regarding the Mo'o, as this goes into the ancient history of Hawaii and the people native to the lands, and I would be much more comfortable, and I feel like it'd be more professional properly to try and speak to someone in person one day that knows these stories with their permission and continue that oral tradition. I don't know. I want to respect a culture. Let's just put it that way. As we step back, though, into Necrozma's inspirations, it actually resembles an angelic being of light, which may be based on the concept of a falling angel. More specifically, Lucifer, little l, who is viewed as a bringer of light and associated with Venus, the third brightest natural object in the sky behind only the sun and the moon, Sol Galileo and Lunala. If we break this down, Venus is known as either the morning or the evening star, which explains Necrozma's ability to take over Sol Galileo or Lunala, as it kind of shifts between that definition. In terms of Lucifer, it was not always the name of the devil, but uncapitalized, again, little l, it meant in Latin the morning star, the planet Venus, or light bringing. Or, and here's the big one, in Hebrew, Helil, meaning shining one. What did we call Ultra Necrozma? Should sound familiar. As for the fallen angel portion of this, the fallen angels lose their glorious form and are banished out of heaven, condemned to hell, subject to pain and torment as they themselves have taken on a more hideous form. In name, its inspiration for Necrozma may be a combination of the nekros, ancient Greek for dead, kuro, meaning black, and prisma, ancient Greek for prism, or plasma for that matter, a state of matter most commonly found in the stars, which all represent Necrozma. In this form at least, it is essentially dead. It is from the stars. It uses prisms, and it's colored black. I don't know, make it simple, I guess. And it has the same name in Japanese, actually. It may also involve Project Ozma, an experiment made to search for extraterrestrial life. And all this Pokemon does is open wormholes as it searches for light, letting all extraterrestrial life converge freely. It is the reason why these wormholes exist originally, assumedly outside of maybe Sol Galileo and Lunala. But ultimately, if this thing is the bringer of light, like literally, it is that universe's version of Arceus to some capacity. Necrozma is arguably the most powerful creature that we are aware of, with the potential exception to Arceus. And I say potential because if Arceus decides to use any Z-power or any light-based moves, Necrozma will arguably just absorb it, becoming stronger and stronger until it just becomes the one true ultimate being above God itself, absorbing Arceus, making it the largest potential threat of all. But luckily, it seems as though we don't have to worry about that threat in particular, because once it's into its full form, it's not constantly seeking light. Though, if it wants to stay in its true form, it's gonna have to. But with that, we have actually concluded all of the Ultra Beasts, discussing them all for now. Because, my dear viewer, I'm sure we will see more of them in the future. Ones that we haven't interacted before. After all, this is multiversal. There are infinite possibilities for where they could be coming from. We haven't even seen the planets of all of these Ultra Beasts. So with that then, I have to say thank you for watching. Thank you to our members that you are seeing on screen. If you would like to become a member, if you're a member on YouTube, you get to view videos early. Otherwise, if you're a member on YouTube or Patreon, you get behind the scenes content, you get emotes on the YouTube as well, and you just overall support the channel, which is greatly appreciated. It goes above and beyond, and I can never truly ask for more. So, with that then, as always, thank you so much for watching. Don't do anything I want to do. Don't do anything I want to do. Please be nice to each other. I love you, and I'll see you next time. Bye!